Hey, good morning, Eastern Oregon, and welcome to this December 28th version of AM Live on EOA. Your connection to Eastern Oregon, and we're on the EOA network.
The EOA network. DC, how come you didn't tell me I had
Well,
toothpaste on my shirt?
Nobody saw that, man. Does
I know. I noticed it as soon as I looked at the thing. I got toothpaste on my dang shirt. Jeez.
Well, I didn't tell you because I didn't notice it, man.
Oh, man.
I gotta notice those things.
First Friday.
Yeah.
We got a 3-day weekend coming up, too, from New Year's.
I know. It's like these 2 weeks. Well, and just the way Christmas fell this year. I mean, it always, there's always a weekday, at least one weekday that it takes up and stuff. But anyhow.
Yeah, there would be like 4 3-day weekends in a row.
Right.
4 years in a row you get because when it's on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, you either get, on the Sunday, Monday, you either get Friday or Monday off, and then.
So I was working on the calendar, working on the calendar for the show, for this this coming year, and it's a leap year coming up. So there's a February 29th.
Oh, is it?
And why that matters is that Brady was born on the 29th of February.
Oh, he's a leap year?
Yeah. So
he's only like 7?
So he'll be 32.
How many years are leap years? Every 4 years?
Every 4,
So he's 8, he's 8 years old.
Yeah, so he'll be, so this will be his 6th
That explains
birthday.
a lot. Well, no, it would be his 8th. If it's every 4 years and he's 32.
Okay, yeah, you're
Maybe his
right.
8th
Sorry,
birthday.
yeah.
Huh, interesting.
Yep.
So do you celebrate his birthday every year, or do you celebrate it every 4 years?
Well, here's the funny thing about this, and I'll have him watch this later, because I've always thought that your birthday, that his birthday, he should celebrate his birthday on March 1st or on the 29th. I mean, so you sequentially celebrate it on the day when your birthday would be, even when there's not a leap year. Okay, so then
it's not on the 28th. So
it would either be on the 29th
or the 1st.
or the 1st.
Yeah.
Well, so then somewhere along the line, he kind of placated that a little bit. It's like, well, it was my birthday and nobody, so the 28th rolls by and like, nobody wished me happy birthday. It's like, well, because your birthday's not until tomorrow.
You weren't even born yet, dude. Like, you're not born until
So the funny thing is now he takes advantage of it. It's like, so both days are my birthday. So, but yeah, it was, and the other thing that was funny is that when we found out his due date, the first thing that Kathy said was, "I'm fine, just as long as we don't have a leap day kid." And she went into labor like at 11 o'clock at night on the 28th, and it was a leap year, obviously. It's like, well,
but why would it matter if it was a leap year?
I don't know.
Oh, my kids are all so.
How some of those
my
things
kids, my oldest, my middle child, and me are all 4 months apart to the day. I'm July 27th.
Really?
Kyron's March 27th.
Huh.
Presley's November 27th. So there's exactly 4 months in between each of those.
That's weird.
We almost got another 27th baby with my youngest. And I told my ex, I was like, hold her in. She's August 24th, but we almost got another 27th birthday. But both of my kids are born on the 27th
That's
of the
funny.
month.
The other thing that's unique about that is, so Brady, when he was in 5th grade, he comes home crying, like, I looked on the calendar today, and there's no such date as the 29th of February.
Oh, you didn't know?
Well, I mean, how did he explain to a 5-year-old leap year?
Yeah. Morning, Justin. How are you? Something cool happened to me last night. I'm going to call him out on the show. I went to get some food at a local eating establishment. I'm not going to say their name because they're, I'm not going to give them that, you pay for that. But Lance Rinker came in to get his dinner, and while I was sitting there waiting for mine to go, he snuck in and paid for my dinner, and that was pretty cool. And I appreciated that. That was really cool of him, and he's just that kind of person. Though.
Yeah,
he really is. He's been. I mean, I watched him through his kids' high school careers, just do all kinds of cool things. Those posters, that got made, the football team, the one that hangs in my office of where he did the posters for the seniors. And that's just a small part of the stuff that he's done to help LeGrand athletics and sports in this community. And that was pretty cool, Rinker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And great kids.
Oh, his kids are phenomenal.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. Owen just finished is in the middle of his freshman year at a school to not be named, a purple school that's about, a few hours that way. College of Idaho. And he's playing soccer, and he had to have labrum surgery this year. So he had to have his other labrum fixed, but he should come back strong next year. And yeah, he's an awesome kid.
Where's the labrum? Awesome. I'm not familiar
hip
with that.
labrum. There's a labrum in your shoulder. There's also a labrum in your hip, and a lot of times it's
is it cartilage, or what is it? I don't know what that is.
Yeah, the labrum is I think it is. It's not cartilage. I think it's a
meniscus type stuff.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what it is, but it tears a lot on turf. It happens a lot on turf.
Interesting.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, there was 4 or 5 EOU football players that had labrum surgery. I mean, it's really common on turf. It must be from being on hard surfaces, but I know it sucks.
Yeah.
I've never had a labrum injury. I mean, I've had a shoulder labrum injury, but never had.
So on that
labrum.
turf up there, is it just hard dirt underneath? I mean, is there any
Concrete,
padding?
BC.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Underneath turf, they put hard. It's concrete. I'm trying to see what a labrum is. It cushions the joint, is what it says.
So it's kind of like that's what meniscus does a little bit too.
Yeah.
So,
cushioning the hip joint, the labrum.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah, it's concrete underneath the turf. But they put there's padding.
Yeah.
And then there's the turf, and then there's turf turds on top of that.
Right.
Which also padded a little bit. They're the little rubber turds that you get in your shoes.
Is it harder than dirt though?
Than a grass football field?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, but eventually it's just dirt that's hard.
A grass football field, you're on grass. Grass is soft.
Yeah.
Compared to completely different.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't feel good to get tackled on turf. You get turf burns too. That's why you see all the players with those things on their arms. That tape-looking stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of a pad.
Yeah, well, it's not. It's to stop you from getting a turf burn. Yeah. Turf burn's terrible.
So hey, we have a billboard now. We're a part of the digital billboard that they just put in right above Dutch Brothers. And so that's kind of cool. So be watching, check that out. We'll be using that from time to time. I mean, we share that. It's a digital billboard, so we share that with.
It rotates.
It rotates, but yeah, so that.
And right now it talks about the ball drop on New Year's Eve.
Yep.
Which will go live at 11:45.
Yep. So, yeah. Well, let's take a look out. No, let's do sports.
Let's do sports.
Yeah.
We got blabbering too much.
Yeah, I guess so.
AM Sports Report brought to you by Rockin' Sons Tire and Auto. East end of Adams and LeGrand. If you need snow tires, if you need anything for your vehicle, go see JB and the boys. Rockin' Sons Tire and Auto. LHS boys basketball beat Powder Valley yesterday in the Eastern Oregon Holiday Crossover in Baker City. 55-34 was the final score. They played Nikiawe today at 4 at Powder Valley High School. And that's also the holiday crossover, which they call it the crossover because it's different levels playing each other, 4A, 3A. And then they close out the holiday crossover with a game against Embler tomorrow night in Baker at 7:30. That should be a good game, actually. I mean, I don't think LeGrand's going to have too much trouble with Embler, but you never know. I want to say Embler's 9-1, and they're in the top 5 in 2A right now, so we'll see. LHS girls basketball plays today in the Sisters Shootout. They play Henley at 5. They also have another game on the schedule today, but it says to be determined. And I don't know if that means that it would have to be earlier in the day. So I'm not sure what goes into what decides who's playing that game against LeGrand. And then tomorrow it's the same thing. They have a game against Banks at 3, but there's a game earlier in the day that says to be determined, and that's the Sisters Shootout. That team is currently ranked number 7 in the state in the OSAA polls, which I don't really pay much attention to, but that's what we have to look at right now. Baker, on the boys' side, Baker's number 1, and Baker's just beating teams. I mean, I don't see a team beating Baker in 4A this year. I think Jabron and that Baker team are going to bring home a state championship for Baker, and that'll be kind of cool.
That'd be great for them.
Yeah, absolutely. EOU men's and women's basketball hosts College of Idaho on Saturday at Quinn. The women tip off at 3 o'clock with the men tipping off at 5. Get up there and support them. This is a huge, it's the rivalry game with College of Idaho, and anytime you can beat College of Idaho at home, it's a great feeling, and they both need wins right now. Both teams are struggling a little bit. The women won their last 2 league games, and so did the men, but then the men went on the road to Florida and lost both of those games. They're both close games. We just didn't finish, and I really want to see this men's team turn around and finish this season strong, and this is a great game for them to do that against the Yotes and Kobe Blaine. Let's get this one. I mean, that's a huge game, and it's super important, and a win is absolutely necessary. Morning Sports Report brought to you by Rock & Sons Tire and Auto. East End of Adams and LeGrand. Go CJB and the boys.
Yeah. All righty. Well, let's look outside and take a look at the weather cam. Man, the wind was blowing yesterday. And
it blew my back porch apart.
Yeah.
Yeah, the stairway, it just blew the whole
thing off. Yeah.
I walked outside, I was like,
Yeah. And it was going. So let's take a look at the upcoming weather here today.
Cold.
Yeah, up to 43 and 44 tomorrow. So I wonder what it's supposed to be like. We don't have it. What's the forecast for New Year's Eve, you know?
I don't know, usually we have a few days, don't we?
Yeah.
That's
I don't
all
know.
right.
We'll come.
I'll bet you it's similar, because I heard one of the old guys from the coffee group over here talking about New Year's Eve, and he said that it's supposed to be above freezing. So
Okay.
which is better than it has been.
Yeah.
Remember 2 years ago when that basketball team was stranded, the high school basketball team?
Yeah.
And it was literally like 0 degrees.
No, there's been some
freezing.
There was a few years, before you were here, there were a couple of years where it was, just a little above 0.
Yeah, that was 2 years ago. It was 0.
Well, and then before that, the very first time I streamed, anyhow, it was one of those times I had some equipment that I was going to use, and it was battery operated, and it wouldn't even fire up.
Yeah.
It was like, nope, not going to even do it. And I forget, I think I streamed with my phone that year or something, but anyhow. So the New Year's Eve ball drop is this Sunday night.
We'll go live at 11:45.
Go live at 11:45.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And Kevin Loveland from Loveland Safe Ride is going to be here with us in just a minute and talk about all things in Kevin's world. And we'll be right back with him.
Eastern Oregon is full of interesting people, with interesting minds and interesting things to say. Here at EO Live, we're committed to connecting you to these intriguing people with EO Talks. We let our special guests share their ideas and life experiences with deep, open, engaging, and inquisitive conversations. You'll also be informed in depth on some of the most recent and relevant events, issues, and more. EO Talks on EO Live, your connection to Eastern Oregon, now on Roku.
All right, we're back with Kevin Loveland from Loveland Funeral Chapel and Loveland Safe Ride. And how you doing, man?
I am fantastic. Good morning.
Good. I've been trying to get you on the show. I'll bet I've texted you 10 times. Maybe not quite that many. 8 times.
No, I bet you have. And I do get a little absent during hunting season.
I was gonna say, it's October through.
Yeah, no, and it's like, and it's okay. I mean, I don't want you to feel guilty, and I don't want to feel bad having to pepper you. But
Fantastic.
Yeah. So I think we've kind of worked it out. But
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and thank you. You are our main sponsor for the Cody Keeping It Clear with Cody show, and we just did one of those the other day. I don't know if that was on your radar. You might have been out, but thank you for doing that.
You're very welcome.
And we talk a lot about Loveland Safe Ride and stuff, and we'll get to that. And I've been trying to get you for a while, and it's timely. It's great that you're here today because one of the main events that Loveland Safe Ride helps with is the New Year's Eve parties that are going on, and stuff. So, but we'll talk about that here in a little bit. So, how you doing? What's been going on in your life, man?
Well, we purchased the funeral home up in Wallowa County, and it has been it's been very busy. It's been quite a blessing. My great grandparents homesteaded up there, so I've always wanted to have that funeral home.
Oh, really?
And but it's taken a while.
Yeah.
And we purchased it a few months back, and it's really been going well. A lot of miles driving back and forth, and but we've been very well received. We're already sponsoring events in the community, and we'll actually be doing our our second Loveland Safe Ride event up there. We did one up there during the Mule Days this summer, and then we'll be up there this New Year's Eve, and we'll have drivers up there, and then of course drivers here.
Well, cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and so that
Spread
is
the love.
Yeah, that's a pretty big undertaking. I
like it. Very nice.
Yeah. No, so I don't know. You've told the story a little bit, but kind of talk to us about how you got in the undertaking business, and what it, and then also why would you want to own another funeral home?
Sure.
What's the advantage of that? Yeah.
So I do. It's funny that you mention that because a lot of the times people do ask. They will say, "How in the heck did you become a funeral director? Was it in your family?" And I no, my family was in the lumber business and the ranching business, and I was dating a girl in high school, and our family decided to sell the ranch my junior year, and my girlfriend's dad said, "Hey, do you want to come work for me?" And I said, "Heck no!" Like, what you do is weird. Like, you work around deceased people. And he says, "It's not as weird as you think. You ought to come and hang out." And I said, "No." Well, then I couldn't find another job anywhere, and so I approached him a couple of weeks later and said, "Maybe I'll go check that out." And he goes, "Well, we'll keep you outside and you can wash cars and do some maintenance and things like that around the building." Well, next thing I know, he was buying me a shirt and a tie and gave me an umbrella, and I was walking little old ladies into the funeral home, and in the rain, and
which is a sweet part of the job.
Oh yes,
still
yes,
yeah,
and then it just kind of escalated to where I saw the value of what they did, and yes, it just like any job, it has the aspects that you don't really like that much, but it was such a rewarding job that I could see how respected he was in the community and all the wonderful things that I just decided, well, maybe this is something that I can do, and so I stepped further into the business, and he bought me a suit, and next thing I know, I was helping work at funerals and working viewings, and then I just saw the value of it, and I figured it out about halfway through my senior year that this is what I wanted to do. And
in high school?
In high school.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But it's a really good thing because all I cared about is like hunting and fishing and just goofing off.
Yeah.
Kind of like now.
Right. Things are full circle.
Right. But once I realized that I kind of had a path in my life, then my schooling got better. I don't even know if I would have graduated, but then I started becoming focused, and here I am.
Yeah, cool. And so then tell us, what is your interest in buying the funeral home in Wallowa County? I mean, it was your grandparents homesteaded there.
They did. They
Yeah.
did. So
But
years.
what is the advantage of having more than one funeral home?
Well, it's not even necessarily the advantage,
Okay.
and in fact, in some cases,
It's a disadvantage.
it could be a disadvantage when, for example, Saturdays are really popular days for funerals,
Right.
and if we end up with a couple of funerals here in LeGrand and then one up in Wallowa County, it does kind of spread us a little bit thin, but in my opinion, it was just kind of the right thing to do. We knew that Lee was going to retire, and if we didn't buy it, I don't know that anybody else would have. And so we just kind of stepped in, and we wanted to do what's right for our neighboring county. And I'm not saying that it's a bad thing. So I'm not saying that it is a disadvantage, but it does have its moments.
Yeah.
We are pleased to be up there just because we know so many people up there, and we've been helping a lot of families up there for years anyways.
Right.
So it's been really good. It's keeping me on my toes.
Yeah. So, and in this day and age, I don't think you and I have talked about this on this. There's a lot of funeral homes are being bought up by corporations.
Yes,
is that
they
right?
are.
Yeah.
They are.
And I don't know, for a minute, help us understand the advantage of the benefit for our community in the funeral homes not being corporate owned.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and I can tell you what happened years and years ago of why this trend started.
Okay.
Of these giant corporations coming into the funeral business is some investors got together years ago and they said, "Hey, there's going to be a bunch of baby boomers passing
That are
away
gonna die,
really
yeah,
soon."
yeah.
And really, that's
Right.
That's where it all came. So these
Interesting.
investors got together and they said, we want to own as many funeral homes as we can, so when these baby boomers start to pass away, we can capitalize on it. And so these large corporations and investors got together and started buying up funeral homes. And there was two main companies, one out of Texas, one out of Canada. And the one out of Canada ended up purchasing too much and paying too much for the businesses. They actually bought the funeral home here in I believe about 96.
Okay.
And then I bought the funeral home here from that corporation in Canada. I bought it, I remember it was deer season. And so I bought it in deer season of '99 from that corporation. The corporation out of Texas and the corporation out of Canada, after they had some financial challenges, eventually kind of joined together. And a lot of the funeral homes and cemeteries throughout the United States that were once corporate competitors are now under the same umbrella as a company.
Okay.
And they're doing better. They realize that coming into a small town, now getting back to the advantage, but coming into a small town and paying too much for a funeral home and then having to hire a manager from out of town, you end up paying too much and then having to pay your employees too much. So they raise their prices so quickly that a lot of people in the community just decided that they didn't want to pay for that additional price increase, nor did they want to send their money to Canada.
Yeah.
And so when we came in and purchased the funeral home, the prices lowered immediately, and then we became active in the community, and then people saw if we spend our money with Loveland's going to turn around and give it right back to the community. Not all of it, because I have some bills that I have to pay for myself, but we do obviously contribute a lot to the community, and we've always felt like if you just give to your community, they're going to give it back.
Yeah.
And that has happened. It's been amazing. We purchased the funeral home in October of '99, and that year we were serving about 70 families. And then the next year we served 99. The next year 121. The next year 143. And then I don't remember the numbers from there, but right now we're serving well over 300 families just here in LeGrand. And so it's been really nice to be able to show the community that if you you know, if you call us and let us help your loved one, we promise we're gonna continue to give back, and we give more and more, and we're gonna keep giving more and more.
Yeah. Well, and thank you for all of that. And you all are seeing this stream right now as a result of the relationship that you and I built back in, I think it was 2014. And you came to me and you said, "Hey, I want to start streaming funerals," and that was when streaming was complicated.
It was very complicated.
Yeah. And so anyhow, so then I figured out how to do the equipment side of things and started serving you guys in that manner. And then once we got over that technical hurdle, I've told this story a lot. It's like, well, we should do a football game. It's like,
right.
well, we should do a football season. It's like,
right.
well, we probably should call ourselves something. And so then, so then out of that experience came LeGrand Alive and eventually EO Alive TV. So so you and I have been connected.
Yes, we have.
A long time.
For a long time, when I first came to town.
Yeah. And so, getting back to what you do, it's interesting because I've seen you. I mean, I don't know how many services that we've been at together over the years, but I would say I don't know, a couple hundred probably.
I would say.
Yeah. And I mean, I watch you with people. I've watched you with a lot of people. I've watched you in a lot of public settings, and you always just have such a big, compassionate heart. And it's one of the reasons you and I are good friends, is because I sympathize with you. Yeah. I mean, I relate with you and I understand, and so it is. I mean, you shine in those settings where you're holding the umbrella for a loved one's family. I mean, that's kind of a little symbol of, I mean, you should have a personal business card of you holding.
That's how I got started.
Of you holding an umbrella.
And I'm really good at it.
Yeah.
Yes, I really am. Like, I'm probably top 25 in all of our employees, and we have maybe 24, so.
Yeah, but still that, I mean, and the thing about it is there's for me anyhow, there's a special kind of joy that comes out of being able to be compassionate to people when they're in a huge emotional need. And
I agree.
And there's few things that people are more in need of than when they're in the loss of a loved one in that kind of a situation.
Right.
Yeah. So well, thank you.
You're welcome. It's a very, very rewarding job. Like, it's funny. I can walk into the grocery store after not seeing a family for a year, and they just come up and give me a big hug and tell me how great the service was, and it's very rewarding to have those experiences with people, even a year or two down the road, where they say their experience with us, even though it was a horrible experience in their personal lives, they at least said the job that we did for them made them feel better and help them with their grieving process, and that's all we care about. You don't have to come into the funeral home and buy the fanciest urn or the fanciest casket and spend all of this money. You just need to have a meaningful funeral experience, and if you have that, then people are grieving, and they're grieving the proper way.
Yeah.
It's not about the money. It's not about the fanciest headstone. It's not about the flashy cars. It's about giving the people the opportunity to gather and say goodbye to their loved one and respect and honor that life.
Yeah.
And the biggest challenge that we face in our industry is, for example, like what my dad said. My dad said, "Oh, when I pass away, don't do a funeral, don't do anything." He goes, "I don't want any of that." And I looked right at him at the dinner table and said, "I don't care what you want."
It's not about you.
He said, "You're going to be gone, and you get to choose whether you want to be buried or cremated, and then I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We're going to take it from here. And if we want to do a funeral, we're going to do a funeral. Now, if you start becoming a jerk, maybe we won't do a funeral because nobody will want to be there. But as of now, people love you, and they want to gather around, and they want to say their goodbyes, and create a meaningful funeral experience.
Yeah.
And that is the biggest challenge in our job.
I'll bet so.
Is trying to get over that hurdle because Grandpa said he didn't want to do a funeral, so by gosh, we're not going to do one.
Well, and it's funny because I said it's not about you, which is totally ironic. It is all about them, that deceased loved one.
No,
But,
you're right.
But at the same hand is that they're not alive.
You're absolutely right.
It is that celebration of life is for the benefit of the survivors.
That's
it's not,
very true.
It's not for the benefit of the person who has passed.
Yes.
And you're right. That's totally hard. I mean, not too long ago there was a funeral that I did some slideshow stuff for, and that family, they were debating about this same thing. What would Mom want? And da 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 da. You know. And I said, yeah, she doesn't really have a vote in this. I mean, I just said that plainly. It's like, this. I mean, clearly, in the heart of the kids that are celebrating the life of their parent who has died. I mean, yeah, they have a huge vote in that.
Yes, they do.
But the point is that people need the opportunity to grieve.
They do.
And I mean, when I'm at a service or when I'm seeing people in that type of a situation and they're emotional, and I know this from my own personal experience. I lost my sister in a car accident. She was 22, I was 18, and and it was a situation where I had to be kind of strong for the family. We had a family business, and I became the manager of that business for about 6 months, But I'm telling you, about 9 months later, I was watching a movie one day, and all of a sudden, in the middle of that movie, I mean, it was I forget, it was some movie where somebody dies at the end, and the little kid is saying, "Dad, wake up!"
Right.
And man, I puddled. I mean, and it was all because of I didn't grieve in a healthy manner when I could have.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's true.
So it's a weird thing. You're escorting people into their own personal little hell in some manners.
Right.
I mean, it's hard.
It is. It's horrible.
Yeah.
What people have to go through, and sometimes it's more than once. We're working with. When I see a family walk through the door, it's like, oh my gosh, we just helped you 6 months ago.
Right. Yeah.
And it's like, how much more can people take? But I can tell you that having a celebration of life, regardless of what it is, where it is, we've done them together. I mean, we've done them up in the mountains. We've done them up at Indian Rock. We've done them on golf courses. We've done them in reception halls and churches and people's backyards and parks. And it doesn't matter where it is and how you do it. It's just a matter of getting everybody together and saying it's okay to grieve. It's okay to say goodbye. It's okay to share stories.
Well, and the other thing is that service becomes a little bit of a period in that event. It becomes a little bit of an exclamation mark, an ending. Okay, I mean, and again, I've had this situation where one of the grandparents that I lost when I was a young man, I was a teenager. I was not at his service. Okay, I was not at his funeral, and so in my head, even now, I have to remind myself. I mean, for many years, it's like, oh yeah, he died, because I didn't have that visual experience of being at his service. Yeah, and so it's a weird thing. Not everybody processes grief the same, but it's an important service that you do.
And speaking of kids at funerals, I had the same thing happen when my grandfather passed away. My mom thought that I was too young and that would be too upsetting.
Right.
And so she didn't even mention that he had passed away till after his funeral, because she didn't want me to say I wanted to go.
Right.
And that was a scenario of, she should have asked me. She thought she was protecting me, so I'm not upset with her for it. But she should have asked, because I would have said, absolutely, I want to say goodbye to Grandpa.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I got some comments. Kenny Forsyth says, good morning, fellas. Good morning, Kevin. Danette Snyder says, we need closure. It's hard to go without. And then Randy Winterton says, you've always provided families with the most memorable experiences, Kevin, at least from my standpoint. Thank you for that.
Oh, very
I had
nice.
to MC my first funeral this year.
Oh my gosh.
It was
It's crazy.
I'm on TV every
Right.
day
Oh,
in front
yeah.
of people. I mean, there's 21 people watching live right now.
Right.
Not the same.
Yeah. No, it's not.
I was a wreck, dude. Well, it was one of my best friends too. I mean,
Oh
it was a
my
wreck.
word.
Yeah, it was really hard. It was one of those. And so what you do, you know what I mean? Not that you MC all of them, but I'm sure you've stood up there and talked in front of people.
We have.
It is so hard, man. It really when you see all these people that you care about in emotionally unstable,
Right.
and you're emotionally unstable too, because I obviously have ties to it. It wasn't my job. He was one of my best friends. It was.
That's, yeah. Sorry,
It
man.
was what it was. We got through it. It was tough though.
So I want to shift just a little bit though, because you guys do a lot, and what I've witnessed over, and I don't know if it's been that way, but pets are a big deal. It seems like they're a bigger deal now than they were 20 or 30 years ago.
Yes.
I don't know. And I mean, and so the people, the loss of their pet in many of those people's lives, I mean, there's the emotion that they're going through is very much the same as losing a grandparent. And you guys service those people also, right?
We do.
Yeah.
We do. And where that came from is for years people would come to us and ask us if we would perform cremations for their pets. And we truly thought that because legally we can do it. But and of course, like, if we're using our crematory at the funeral home for a person, then we can't have a pet in there with them, even if it's their own pet. The laws are very strict that we have to do like an individual cremation. But we just kept getting asked over and over again if we would be willing to start doing cremations for pets. And even the veterinarian clinics were reaching out to us saying, there's a company that shows up here and they load the pets up and take them somewhere in Washington, and then they come back and sometimes the family wants to get their cremains back, but it was just this big disconnect, and they said, we really need this service done here in our community, and now we're doing cremations up in Wallowa County for pets. We're doing them here in La Grande, and it's by all means, it is not a moneymaker.
It's a service.
Yes, it's a service. If you take a 125-pound dog that we need to cremate for somebody, it's going to be, and I don't know the exact price, $375, for example. But if we take a 125-pound person, to cremate, it's going to be well over $2,000. And so, but we do the service as a service to the community. But it's been pretty amazing because once we have cremated somebody's pet, if we've never done a cremation in their family before, then they're like, well, you cremated our dog, so now we need to also be cremated through your facility. Yeah. And so it's been wonderful to be able to serve people and help them. And we've even done little pet funerals, and we have pet urns, and you're right. There are some people out there that love their pets more than they love their humans.
Oh yeah.
Well,
Oh yeah.
My parents.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Yeah, no, it's a thing, and that's going nowhere but up.
Yes.
That's just going to continue. And we could have a discussion about the moral implications of that, but it's just that's where people are, and that's how they grieve, and that's what they have attached themselves to.
Kyle, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Kyle and Tate McCandy says, Kevin, Loveland is such a vital member of our community. Thank you for what you do.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kyle and Tate.
No, that's cool. And I tell you, I'm switching back and forth here. One of the, I've been to a lot of funerals.
Yes, you have.
I pastored, and then I've served. served with you guys. But one of the really super unique things that I've seen at a couple of services, gravesides that you've done, is you cremated their loved one, you put it in an urn, and they actually the urn is, I don't know, maybe about the size of a football.
Sure.
Somewhere
That's a
around
good
in there.
description.
Yeah. And they lower these families get on their knees and they put the urn in the hole themselves, and I mean
That's closure.
that is.
Yes.
And that's a very
Yes.
I mean that was a very cool family experience. I mean there's just something that draws people together when, in those moments, nobody cares whether you get along with whether you think politically different between
That's
you
true.
and your sister or
That's
your
true.
aunt or whatever. Okay, all your focus is on remembering that thing. Yeah, that person. And yeah,
I'm glad you brought that up
Yeah.
because that is a very meaningful experience for some people.
Right.
For other people,
They don't
because
wanna
we'll
have
ask
anything to
them,
do with it. Right.
do you want to lower the urn? And a lot of the times they'll just say, no, you guys can place it after we all leave.
Right.
But the families that do want to do it, it's part of the ceremony, and it
Yeah.
means a lot.
Yeah. And you will also, I didn't know the conversation was going to go this way. It's just kind of the way, yeah. You also will spread people's ashes and
do.
pets' ashes also,
do.
right?
We do.
Because you've told me about the times you'll load up some ashes, groups
Yeah.
of, yeah, and
Yeah.
you'll, on your four-wheeler, and you'll go
Yes.
find a place, and
Yep.
yeah. So,
And we do that a lot. So normally it's once the snow melts, because we don't scatter very much in the winter. But once the snow melts, then yes, we'll go up, and we normally have some pet cremations that we'll scatter. And then normally, if somebody says they want to be scattered, like in the Blue Mountains or or in the Wallowas, I try to get a specific location that they want me to go to. Then that way, at least they'll know the trailhead or the kind of the
Right.
generalized location. Sometimes they just say, "We don't want to know. We just want you to just go scatter
wanna know that
Grandpa's
it's done."
ashes."
Yeah.
And we have some for that we've already got this winter that we'll be scattering this spring. And so in the state of Oregon, just so people know, you can scatter just about anywhere. Whereas California, you can't scatter at all in California unless you have a permit to scatter in a scattering garden at a cemetery, or you can scatter, I think it's 5 miles off of the coast of California. Oregon is pretty relaxed. You can pretty much scatter anywhere as long as you're not on somebody else's private property or in a state park or federal park.
Isn't the coast in Oregon the same though? Because I remember we were going to scatter my ex's grandparents off the coast,
Yes.
and we looked it up, and there was some where you had to be a certain distance away from the shoreline.
So a lot of the Oregon coast is actually considered a park, and
Oh, is
so
it?
that that can be tough.
There you go.
But you can go out and scatter. But like what I always tell people, like
I mean, they ain't really watching you.
no,
Just
but
drop it out your
people will
pocket.
go up and they'll walk right off the dock and scatter at Wallowa Lake State Park, and they're not supposed to do that.
No.
And so,
Right.
and so a lot of the times they'll move around to other areas of the shore and make it to where it's not so obvious because Wallowa Lake is a state park, but not the entire lake. There's private property
Right.
pieces, and but a lot of people do scatter, but then they also are still they'll do what's called a partial scatter. Well, they'll scatter some because that's what the person wanted, but then they'll also take some of the cremains and bury them in a family plot, so they have a place to go to on Memorial Day, and that
Or
makes
they'll
it
make
nice.
a necklace
Yes,
or like a
yes,
paperweight
yes.
or
Yeah. Well, all right. So since we've taken a deep dive in this topic, before we move on, funerals are surprisingly expensive.
Yes, they are.
And I mean, I'm saying that not a reflection for
Sure.
you. I'm just saying that people need to prepare for that.
Yes, they do.
I mean, even an inexpensive funeral is 7 or 8,000
Yes, it
bucks.
is.
Is that is that the good ballpark?
That is correct.
Okay.
And I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
So people have the option of doing what's called a prearranged funeral plan that you can pay for ahead of time. And you can either make it in monthly payments or you can make it in a one lump sum payment where you pay for it. The nice part about it is it becomes what's called a guaranteed funeral plan. So that actually locks the price in to where, if somebody comes in and wants to pay for their cremation or their urn or their casket, it locks the price in. So regardless of inflation, they don't have to pay more for those.
Basically,
for those
getting
products.
a discount.
Yes, and it's kind of a nice thing because like it's a form of a life insurance. So let's say you wanted to come in and pay for your plan today. You've made one monthly payment, and then God forbid you get in a car accident and something happens.
Yeah.
Then that policy will actually pay for your entire funeral.
Yeah.
So it is a form of a life insurance. Plus, it's also paying off your plan. And what it does is it makes it to where your children don't have to come in and try to make all of these decisions when they're grieving. The only challenging part is some people come in and pay for their plan, and then they say, I don't want a funeral. And so then they don't pay for a funeral, and then we have to try to talk to the kids and say, it's okay if you want to do a funeral for yourselves, we can help you facilitate that.
Yeah.
I know Grandpa didn't want one, but Grandpa
Don't got much to say.
Right.
Yeah, and this came, a few years ago. You and I were involved with raising funds for Ken Kennedy's
That's true.
funeral.
Yes.
Yeah, and he was a dear friend of ours and called games the last several years of his life and stuff, and has been in the community for a long time. But same thing. I mean, he had not made any arrangements, and his family was not in any kind of a place to. They just didn't have the funds.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
and so I think you and I did a GoFundMe, and we figured something out and raised some funds for that. And so, so it's something that if people don't take care of somebody in the family, their estate is going to have to take care of it in some manner. But if their estate doesn't have money, then it's just a real problem. So
It is. We run into it like when somebody passes away on like a surprise death.
Yeah.
And then they don't have the means. But then they'll always say, "Gosh, I got your survey in the mail, and we were thinking about responding and wanting to do our prearranged plan, but we just never got around to it." And to be honest with you, I don't blame people for not wanting to make that phone call. Like, who wants to call the funeral home and then plan their own funeral? It's not a fun experience.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, once it's behind you, it's a relief off your shoulders, and then you can tell all the kids and the family, like, hey, it's done. Don't worry about it. It's handled.
Yeah. All right, so let's shift.
Yeah, let's talk about the real reason why you're here.
Let's talk about Loveland Safe Ride. So, how many years have you been doing this now?
Gosh, it's, I don't remember if it started in 2000 or 2001.
So 22,
Yes.
23 years.
And it's been an amazing program. And I know a lot of people know the story, but the story simply started because I wanted to honor my best friend's death. And he was a funeral director. We were roommates, and he chose to drink and drive. And unfortunately, it took his life, and it was very upsetting for me. That was in July of '97, and I bought the funeral home here in October of '99. And as I witnessed more people getting in alcohol-related drunk driving car crashes, and I'm going out to these scenes and picking them up, and then I'm having to work with their family members, I just thought, I have to do something to honor my best friend's life. And I didn't know what that answer was. And literally, I think it was about Christmas time in the year maybe 2000, I decided I was going to do this. And so I put the seats back in my Suburban. that my Suburban was my personal vehicle, and it was also my funeral home vehicle, because let me tell you, when I came here and bought the funeral home, I did not have finances. The things were very, very tight in 1999. And I just decided, I put a ad in the newspaper, and I decided I was just going to start driving drunk people home. And it was amazing. The problem is it actually became a little too amazing because people wanted to sit and talk.
Right.
And then they were trying to talk to me.
And they're
my
drunk.
phone's ringing off the hook. These people are drunk because they want to talk, and a lot of the times when you're drunk, you want to talk more. And they're, oh, when my grandma passed away, we had a viewing, and they're telling me all these.
You talk a little bit more when you're in that way too. I remember.
Oh yes. And they're telling me all of these stories, but my phone's ringing, and I need to go pick up other people. And so, as I was telling, my best friend is Jerry Hopkins, and as I was telling him about my experience doing that, he was like, oh, he goes, I will take care. I will handle this program from here on out. And he wouldn't take any money. He's like, I want to give to the community, and I just want to help people. And he goes, this is what I'm going to do for this community. And he goes, I will make sure that the Loveland Safe Ride program takes off, and we're at every event we can possibly be at. And he's done an amazing job for all of these years. I mean, we're well over 100,000 rides, and it's been absolutely amazing. We'll be up in Wallowa County this year. We'll have several drivers here in Union County. I think maybe 4 here in Union County, and it's amazing. Like, it's funny because we use, a lot of the times we use the funeral home phone number, the 963-5022. We use that phone number for our safe rides. Well, I have people come up to me like at funerals and says, like family members, and say, hey, I've called that phone number so much when you guys have given me safe rides. When Dad passed away, I just had it memorized, and I just called you guys right up. And so I guess it's a good thing when people memorize your phone number, but it's kind of weird that people have a funeral home phone number memorized.
Well, it's funny because a few years ago you were emceeing a Chamber of Commerce event, and at the very end, and you were a little bit under the influence because you were like way bolder talking.
Probably.
Yeah, you were just totally blunt. And one of the things you said was, hey, Loveland Safe Ride is just outside the door. You know, I want to see you tonight get safe home so that I don't see you tomorrow.
Oh, that's sometimes I do say more than I should.
Yeah.
So if I ever offend anybody, I do apologize.
No, it wasn't offensive. It was directly to the point. And you have, so the vehicles that you use currently, they're loaned to you by the local automobile dealers, correct?
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
Yes, they are.
So mention that real quick.
And thank you for saying that. So we do now get all of our vehicles donated by our auto groups here in town. So Goss Motors, Legacy Ford, Legacy Dodge, and the other guys auto sales, they all come to us to say, we will donate as many vehicles as you need for whatever event. And it has been absolutely amazing because let me tell you, when you use a vehicle all night long at a rodeo and people are getting in and out, and and sometimes people are getting sick, and we are asking a lot of these car dealers. They never ask us to, they don't say fill them up with fuel, or they just donate them. And it's really been amazing. When we first started, we used to use our vehicles at the funeral home.
Right.
And then I was having to wake up early in the morning, get them all cleaned up, and then do funerals the next day.
Yeah.
And after an all-night rodeo, and then having, pallbearers and things in the vehicle, and they smell like alcohol and cow manure from rodeos, and people getting sick. And we just thought, we're going to start renting them.
Yeah.
So for the first few years, we rented the vehicles, and then all the dealers just said, you no longer have to rent them. We will donate this to your program.
Yeah.
And it's pretty amazing. And the police officers, normally our drivers will see them at an event at rodeos. They get my driver's personal cell phone numbers, and so if they have somebody that's about to jump in a vehicle and drive, they'll just be like, hey, let me make this phone call.
Yeah.
We're going to get you home safely, but we're not going to let you get in trouble.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think that our local police officers are just out to catch people, and like they just want to catch them. They actually don't. They don't want to be out giving DUIs.
Right.
They would prefer that nobody gives DUIs.
Right.
And when I first came to town, I remember, I mean, you look it up, and there would be 20, 30 DUIs the night of a rodeo. And now we're going all weekend, and there's 0.
Yeah.
And it doesn't happen to be 0 all the time, but
Right.
it's more than less. There's maybe 0 to 2 or 3 compared to 20 or 30 the way it used to be.
I think last New Year's there was none.
That's great.
I went on a ride along with Beeve last year.
Yes, that's right.
And whoever supplied that car, that was a sweet ride. Man. It was like a 2023 Jeep, like
Oh, you were in the
Wagoneer, top
Wagoneer,
of
yes.
the line.
You were
yeah,
in-
that thing was.
Yep.
Wow.
That and
That's
see,
probably $90,000 vehicle. I mean,
those are beautiful, and the car dealers, all of them, have just truly been amazing. They don't hold anything back. They don't give us some clunker that they just took in on trade.
it was a ride.
They give us nice vehicles.
Yeah. So what about the other expenses? Do you have? I mean, can people donate to help cover
Yes, I
gas
mean
and
they can if they want. We've never asked that.
Okay. But do you take that out of your? How do you pay those?
I just pay for it.
Okay.
The funeral home the funeral home subsidizes and pays the Loveland Safe Ride program.
Okay. And and some of your are your drivers paid something too?
They finally I have convinced the drivers
To take
if
something.
you are going to put up with what you have to put up with all night long from all of these drunk people, you have to allow me to pay you.
Yeah,
So years ago, Jerry would not take payment. He's like, I want to do this for the community. And I just said, I understand that, but you've done it all these years. And so the first year I gave him a gun cabinet, a really nice oak gun cabinet. And he didn't want it, but he needed something to put his guns in. And then the next year I gave him a bow, an archery bow.
Yeah.
And he didn't want to take that, but it was a nice bow, and then he used it. And then he just finally just said, okay, if you want to start paying, because then now we'll have we'll have five or six drivers driving New Year's, and they're all going to be paid. And then people can tip, of course.
Right.
We do allow the drivers, and I encourage it, the drivers to put a tip jar in there, because anytime somebody's getting tipped, they might just be a little bit nicer.
Yeah.
And it's pretty difficult at 1 o'clock in the morning when you got people screaming in the back seat to turn that radio up or change this song or
Taylor Swift.
Yeah, or turn on the flashing lights and blah blah blah. And
I need to go to the bathroom.
Oh, and people are trying to light a cigarette.
Oh,
like,
there's
no,
a husband
you're
and a
not
wife that were arguing last year. It's so funny.
You're not smoking in the rig, and so our drivers have to put up with a lot. But I encourage them to have that tip jar, because somebody drops a few dollar bills in that tip jar, and it might make them just be a little bit nicer.
Yeah.
I think
they do pretty well on tip. I mean, it's not
Yeah.
bad. But Bee's been doing it for 20 years.
Yes,
so he's
he
got
has.
his regular, you know what I mean? He's got his.
Oh,
his
and
team.
Jerry is absolutely amazing on how he runs this program. Like he already has the flyers printed up, delivered up to Wallowa County, and for New Year's. And he's so organized, and Pam at our office, prints up all of the pamphlets that we hand out for an event, and it's just amazing. Our team has come together to support this service that we provide, and it's truly amazing. We have a lot of people that have volunteered to drive, and if there's anybody out there that would ever like to drive for an event, let us know at the funeral home, and we'll jot your name and phone number down, because we do run into situations where, like this New Year's, I mean, trying to come up with 5 or 6 drivers is, and it's growing, and because we'll be up in Wallowa County, it's a little tough.
Yeah. So before we quit, let's pivot back to your office staff, your people, because you haven't been able to. I haven't been able to get a hold of you because you've been hunting. I can get a hold of you.
Yes.
Yeah. But you've been able to be gone because you have some great people.
I talk to all of these businesses around, and even other funeral homes, and people constantly nowadays are saying that they can't find good employees, and it actually makes me feel terrible, because, and I am not just saying this because now I'm being videotaped, and I know they're probably listening, but we truly have a absolutely amazing group of people, from the guys that are on call at night. I mean, we have police officers, we have school teachers. I mean, it is truly amazing, and I mean, it's just how people come together and just want to work for us is not like what I'm hearing through other businesses.
No.
Like we literally have a waiting list of people that want to come work for the funeral home, and it's a true blessing, and they're all amazing. Like they're so dedicated, they truly care, and it's, at 1 o'clock in the morning when you're going into somebody's house to pick their dad up, and you have to have a great level of compassion. And it's hard to be compassionate at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And I never get complaints. I get nothing but compliments about my employees, from Ian, the office manager, to Pam, the office. Actually, Ian's the funeral home manager. Pam's the office manager, and Jerry's the removal team and safe ride manager. I get nothing but compliments on them and all of the employees that work for them. It's just amazing.
Well, and you guys have been together for a while.
We have.
And that is a testament to your leadership. Whenever you have an organization and you have good people that stay in that organization, it just means that they're happy. They're happy with what's going on. I mean, they're satisfied.
That's great.
And that's that's just a testament to good leadership. So, hey, thank you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Sean Phillips says Safe Ride's a great contribution to our community.
Very nice.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for what you do for us, and thanks for the relationship that you and I have. And it's good to have you here, man.
Absolutely, brother. All right.
All right. Well, hey, get us out of here.
Let's do it. On this day, December 28th, 1612, Galileo first observed Neptune. He thought it was just a fixed star, didn't realize it was an actual planet. 1732, on this day, Benjamin Franklin, under the pseudonym Richard Saunders, begins publication of the Poor Richard's Almanac. 1832, on this day, John Calhoun becomes the first vice president to resign. And it was over differences with President Jackson at the time. 1860, on this day, Harriet Tubman arrives in Auburn, New York, on her last mission to free slaves, having evaded capture for 8 years on the Underground Railroad. 8 years, man.
That's unreal.
It's crazy. 1958, on this day, the greatest game ever played. The Baltimore Colts win the 26th NFL championship against the Giants 23-17 at Yankee Stadium. It's the first ever sudden death overtime in NFL history. 17 people in that game were future Hall of Famers.
Wow.
17.
Wow.
That's a lot of people.
What year was that
game.
again?
That was 1958.
Okay.
1973, U.S. President Richard Nixon signs the Endangered Species Act into law. You wonder how many species that actually kept go. You know what I mean? Because it has preserved quite a few species.
Yep.
In 1981, on this day, the first American test tube baby, Elizabeth Jordan Carr, is born in Norfolk, Virginia. 2002, on this day, LinkedIn is founded by Reid Hoffman in Mountain View, California. Number one movie on this day in 1993, Denzel and Julia Roberts, Pelican Brief. And then the quote of the day comes from Steve Maraboli. The beautiful journey of today can only begin when we learn to let go of yesterday. One more time. The beautiful journey of today can only begin when we learn to let go of yesterday.
All right.
That's it. What is today? First Friday.
Yep.
We'll be back Tuesday.
We'll be back Tuesday. Don't forget, Sunday night, 11:45, we'll start webcasting the ball drop in downtown LeGrand. Thanks, Eastern Oregon. Thanks, Kevin, for being with us
thank
today.
you,
betcha.
Kevin.
Thanks,
Appreciate
guys.
you.
Yeah. We'll see you next week.